G'day, guys. We are with our senior podcast here, Championship Men, and as the sort of postseason looms and awards start to become a bit of a factor here, we're just going to go through Championship Men. We're going to have a bit of a discussion about who we think are going to be the MVP candidates from each team. Now, interesting because some of these guys have got very different numbers, and we'll go through them, and some of them might not be legitimate MVP candidates, and some of the other teams have some very, very dominant athletes. But then you also have a look at some other teams, and they got two or three guys that can make a push or are stealing votes off each other. So
yeah, as is the Brownlow medal in the AFL. If sometimes when you've got a star-studded team, you can steal votes off one another. But certainly, most of these teams, you can see they've got a standout player for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll start at the top here because there's no other real standout in this team. Ishmael Sanders as probably the number one candidate for Sunbury, averaging 29 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. He's shooting the ball very, very efficiently, 88% from the line, 37 from three-point. He's the true candidate for Sunbury.
Well, and he's the reigning MVP as well. So no surprise here. Ish Sanders certainly keeps that team's offense ticking over, and he's probably the team's best perimeter defender as well. Obviously, they have other options in terms of Trevon Clayton, Gerald Blackshear, and Max Barkley, but everybody sort of knows you come up against Sunbury, the main guy you've got to try and slow down is Ish.
That is the scout. It is indeed. Wyndham probably going to be the likes of Maurice Howard. Another guy who, is definitely in the race this year again. Probably had a very, very similar to what he had last year. 27 points per game with his 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Again, shooting extremely efficiently, 41% from the land of plenty.
Yeah, this guy's a scoring weapon, Ted, and I just know he's got the ability to just turn it on and pretty much end a game in 5 minutes. If he gets hot for 5 minutes, you can be in a whole lot of trouble. And, you talk about Wyndham, and they've got some other good candidates. Adetomi Ayala is having a huge season, big improver on last year as well. But then they do have a number of scoring weapons across the board, Manella Yole and Cavion Green and those sorts.
Absolutely. We have McKinnon here, which is an interesting one because you would typically say Sharif Black, but has been injured for quite some time, so we're not entirely sure as to how the votes are going to go here, but you could probably make a bit of a case for Nathan Davis as this season comes to an end, playing pretty much every single game they've been in. 22 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 37% from beyond the arc and 86 from the free throw line.
Yeah, he's just a really efficient scorer, and you go watch a game, and you won't necessarily pick up that he's absolutely destroying you, but then you blink and you miss it, and he's got another 20, 25 points. He's just an incredibly good athlete, and with a great shot on him. And you talk about Sharif Black, he's only played 10 games because of injury, but they've been a pretty good 10 games.
They have been. Yeah, they have. They really have. Moving on, Hume. Troyce Manassa is obviously the clear-cut candidate here. They did pick up a few other guys in the off-season, but no, it just has to be Troyce.
Yeah, if we were talking about the first 6-7 weeks of the season, you'd actually think about Troyce would be probably the leading candidate overall for MVP. He was absolutely dominant. He had a little bit of I think it might have been a knee injury in one of those games around the round 8 sort of time. Didn't miss much, but it's just slowed down slightly since coming back. But certainly his Hume's MVP, and Chris Elder's pretty handy and Pundak's pretty handy, but at the end of the day, you go into the game with Hume, Troyce is going to be a major factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Western Port now, a team that's sitting at the bottom of the ladder, but they have 2 insane scorers. Daryl Coletta had 52 points last week. Scott Stone tried to do one better, actually tied with 52 as well over this weekend. So, these two are probably battling as to who collects votes in all of their games, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. And usually when Scott Stone goes off with his scoring, it's combined with Daryl Coletto's assist numbers being through the roof. But Yeah, Scott Stone is a fantastic player. He's returning to the league. He was Ringwood's import. I believe they may have won the championship that year as well. Back about maybe 4 or 5 seasons ago, maybe. But yeah, he's having another phenomenal season. It's just Western Port might not get enough wins for him to earn the votes.
Absolutely. Another team that probably is just edging with not enough wins is probably Anthony Kimball for Western Port. Probably
for Camberwell.
Apologies for Camberwell. Yeah, interesting one. He was McKinnon last year, I believe, had some injuries. But no, he's come to his Camberwell side. He's sort of become one of their bigger options and more dominant guys. He's very vocal on the floor, which is awesome to see. Great team player. But yeah, again, just someone who's probably not going to collect enough votes here.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. He's actually been a revelation for Camberwell down there, and putting together a really nice season, and not always playing the biggest amount of minutes either. So fairly efficient there. And the other one who will challenge him is young Jay McKenzie, who's probably been a little bit more inconsistent than what he would have liked to be, but he's had some pretty big games along the journey as well. So on to Keysborough and Anthony Williams, who's been fantastic for them since coming across from Casey last year, averaging 19 points a game, 4.7 rebounds, 3 assists, and shooting a decent clip at 35% from deep.
Yeah, this is another interesting team where a lot of guys could be stealing votes off each other. You'd say if they were like a top 3 team and winning a lot of games, a lot of these guys would gather votes. But, Harper Baker, when he started the season off, would have gotten a lot of votes. Lasers would have got some. Newbie, Geethers, now that he's joined the team. Like, these guys are probably stealing votes off each other constantly.
Yeah, which is fantastic for a team because they're hard to scout.
Yeah.
But yes, if we're talking MVP candidates, whilst we sort of sit there and mark Anthony Williams as they're a team MVP and does a bit of everything, it's any given night it can change. So, and Blackburn, Ted.
Yeah, Ray Mitchell probably seems to be the number one guy here for them with his averaging just over 16 points per game with his 6 rebounds, not shooting as efficiently as the rest of the MVP candidates here with 26% for Orlando Plenty, but no, probably their number one option here for Blackburn.
Yeah, just a reasonably good athlete. Missed a couple of games here and there, but he's been pretty consistent across the year and just a decent team player.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to finish it off, Bellarine's Lewis Varley here, 11 points per game with his 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Shooting it okay, just under 25% for Orlando Plenty. Did come up from Division 1 men, so a bit of a jump here, and he is quite undersized in this league. But he is physical. He does have that physical element, and he is a Bulldog. He will get after it, but probably going to be their number one guy.
Yeah, he is, and I certainly appreciated what he did in the final series last year for Bellarine, and he's probably scoring a little bit less this year than what he'd like, but definitely the leader of that Bellarine Storm team.
Absolutely. Look, that'll be all for us today, guys. Keep it locked in BV and our podcast. We'll catch you soon.